Welcome back to my video. This is my November TBR. I am going to be participating in multiple different things, multiple different reading things this November, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on each and every one of these books. The first thing that I'm going to be participating in is Nonfiction November. They have 4 categories set aside for Nonfiction November. One is, and I'm reading from my computer, one is time, one is movement, one is discovery, and one is buzz. Now, I don't know how the other people feel about these kinds of prompts, but I really find them stimulating. I love these kinds of like one-word inventive initiation or initiative taking, that's the word I want, initiative taking sort of prompts. And so I am going to be reading 5 books for the 4 categories because I could not decide. So the first one, for time, I'm going to be reading When, The Secret of Perfect Timing. And I'm gonna put a picture of that here because I'm going to be listening to an audiobook of that, and I've already got it from my library and I'm just itching to get started. For movement, I have 2 choices. For movement, I'm going to be reading Avoid the Day. This is a new nonfiction in 2 movements by Jay Kirk. And let me just quickly read you the back of this one. I won't read the back of all of them, but of this one, quite honestly, I don't think that I can fully understand what it is I'm about to read, but I am so intrigued that I can't not try to read it. So let me just read the back of this one. Seeking to answer the mystery of a missing manuscript by Bela Bartok and using the investigation to avoid his father's deathbed, award-winning magazine writer Jay Kirk heads off to Transylvania, going to the same villages where the master, like a vampire in search of fresh plasma, found a new material in the folk music of the peasants. With these stolen songs, Bartok redefined music in the 20th century. Kirk finds inspiration in the composer's unorthodox methods, but he begins to lose his tether as he sees himself in Bartok's darkest and most personal work, the Cantata Profana, which revolves around the curse of fathers and sons. After a near-psychotic episode under the spell of Bartok, the author suddenly finds himself accompanying an old friend who is a documentary filmmaker on a posh eco-tourist cruise in the Arctic. The two decide to scrap the documentary and make a horror flick instead. Shot under the noses of the unsuspecting passengers and crew, playing one of the main characters who finds himself inexplicably trapped on a ship at the literal end of the world, alone and under the influence of the midnight sun, Kirk gets lost in his own cerebral maze, struggling to answer his most plaguing question. Can we find meaning in experience? I mean, what is it I'm about to read? I really don't know. But isn't that cover gorgeous? I mean, it's just so beautiful. So that is Avoid the Day by Jay Kirk, and it's one of the 2 books I'm reading for the prompt of movement. The other book I'm reading for the prompt of movement is this one, The Ninth, Beethoven and the World in 1824 by Harvey Sachs. I've had this on my shelf for a very, very, very long time. It's a tiny little book. It's very thin. And I got a used copy of it from, where else? Better World Books. And it's so fun to me because it came with this little sticker on the back, which tells me that this book is from the Strand in New York, which is just awesome. This book I picked because I've had it on my shelf for a really long time. I really want to read it. And the prompt is movement, and symphonies are written in movements. So that's that one. For discovery, I'm going to put another photo right here because I'm going to be listening to the book The Feather Thief, which was recommended to me by a friend a very long time ago, I would say years ago, and I have yet to listen to it. So I'm going to be discovering what The Feather Thief is actually about. And for buzz, I'm going to put another picture right here because I'm also going to be listening to The Inner Work of Racial Justice, which I have had on hold at the library since probably, before it was released for sure. I would say I've probably have had it on hold at the library in all of its forms, waiting for whichever one came in first, since I would like to say July, probably. So I've been waiting for it for a really long time, and it's finally here, and I'm going to use it for buzz because racial justice is a buzzword right now, and I think it is all about meditation, and that is also a buzz right now. So I went with buzzwords. Some people went with buzz bees. I don't know. Some people went with, you know, Buzz Aldrin, I suppose, but I went with buzzwords. The next thing that I'm going to be doing is to take a little mini vacation between November 15th and the 22nd to join the Gilmore Girls read-a-thon. Now, I do not watch and have not watched and may never watch all of the Gilmore Girls. I can take them in small chunks. And so I want to participate in this because I really loved the prompts and I like the idea of taking a week to focus in on these kind of cozy sorts of things. So I will be reading for the first prompt. It's right here. I will be reading, the first prompt is set in a small town. I will be starting my journey through Mitford. I've never read any of these, and they've been recommended to me so many times. So this is the first novel in the Mitford series, At Home in Mitford, and it takes place in a small town, and it's one of those cozy mystery books. So I will be joining the people in Mitford. For the next prompt, it features a mother-daughter relationship. I will be putting a picture right here, because I will be listening to My Name is Lucy Barton. This is a book that's been on my TBR list for years, years and years. And I don't read a lot of books, I realized. I mean, I've never thought about it, but I realized as I was trying to find a book for this particular category, I don't read a lot of books that focus on mother-daughter relationships. But this is one that was on my TBR that popped up when I was looking for mother-daughter relationships, so I'm gonna go ahead and listen to it. I do think it takes place during World War II. I've been a little World War II fictioned out for a long time now. I used to read it voraciously, absolutely loved it, but I just, you know what it is? I read The Women in the Castle and enjoyed that tremendously. If you have not read The Women in the Castle, and I'll put a picture of it here, then you should definitely give it a try. It is a very different take on World War II literature. And I've yet to find another book that really kind of can give me another fresh take on it like that book did. So while I do think that World War II literature and fiction that comes out of World War II, as much as I think that that literature is extremely important and I encourage people to keep writing it and reading it, I've just reached a point where I'm kind of done with it. But My Name is Lucy Barton, I believe, is a World War II setting, and I am going to dig into it, but I'm going to focus on the mother-daughter relationship. The next one is a book that is set during the fall and the winter, and I have ordered a used copy of, and I'll put a picture here because I don't have it yet, it hasn't arrived yet, but I will put a picture here of If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. And I don't know a whole lot about this book, but somebody, and I can't even remember who, that's how long ago this was recommended to me, told me that I would love it and I should read it. So If on a Winter's Night a Traveler is in transit on its way to me, and I will be reading that during the week of November 15th to the 22nd. I will also be reading this. This I will be reading because it is a book with complicated love interests. I am this close to finishing the first book. I will finish it today. I will finish it tonight, and I am adoring these books so much. There are a couple of things that I do hope get addressed, but I will do a whole review of these books after I've read the third one. The fourth one is not yet released in English, but I have so much to say about these books. And I'm really excited to get into this second one, which is going to be my complicated love interest pick. This is book 2 in the Mirror Visitor series by Christelle Dabos, and it is this beautiful edition is published by Europa. And I haven't even looked inside this book yet because I've just been so excited. Anyway, super excited. This book I mean, and let me tell you, I am not a huge fantasy reader. I did kind of fall into I've been craving fantasy. And I'm so glad that the first book in this series is the book that I picked up, because it felt like, reading it feels like watching a Studio Ghibli movie. And maybe I said that wrong. Maybe I said Ghibli wrong. I'm now second guessing myself. I don't know. How do you say it? I don't know. Anyway, strongly recommend this series. There may be some things that some issues, I think, about gender roles that might not get resolved. I don't know yet. I'm hoping that they're harping on some things so that they can resolve them. We'll see. Time will tell. But there's enough about this series that I absolutely love and adore that I'm going to keep with it. For Asian author representation, I'm going to finish a book that I DNF'd a long time ago. And I DNF'd it only because I picked up so many other great books that I love. This is a retelling of Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre, if you don't know yet by now, is my absolute favorite book. And this is a retelling from a different kind of Korean, Korean-American perspective. So I started this book, I would say probably in 2016, and then DNF'd it. And I'm definitely going to have to go back and finish reading it. I might have to go back and start from the beginning. I'm hoping not, but I'm going to finish it. Not because, I didn't stop it because it's not a great book. I just stopped it because I got interested in other things. And even though this is a retelling, I know how Jane Eyre ends. So, yeah, so it's taking the Gilmore Girls to get me back. And then the last prompt is to read the next book in a series. I would like to read this one. This series right here is an obsession of mine. Last year in the wintertime, I accidentally, not realizing that it was part of a series, got an Irish Country Christmas, and I read it, and I fell in love with the village of Ballybuckle Bowl and with the characters, and just, it was different from the things that I normally read. It was that small town feel. I probably could have picked this for my Features a Small Town or Set in a Small Town, but I realized this year that actually it's part of a complete set, and I recently listened to the first book, An Irish Country Doctor. I read the second book, which is An Irish Country Village. I re-listened to, instead of reading An Irish Country Christmas, and this is the next book in the series, An Irish Country Girl. And I'm really excited about this one because it appears to be told through the perspective of Kinky Kincaid instead of through the doctors. And Kinky is a really wonderful mothering type figure who takes care of these doctors. And if you are not familiar with an Irish Country series, I highly recommend it, especially if you are a fan of quirky characters, a small town feel, a recent historical setting, relationship building, humor. I laugh out loud every time I read these books, every time I read a new one. And you know what? I mean, I've read 2 years in a row now. I've read Irish Country Christmas and wasn't bored at all, even though I knew what would happen. It's such a sweet series. It's not saccharine sweet, but like genuinely loving. So I recommend these books. And not done yet. So I'm going to read all of those. And that's just 2 of the things that I'm doing. I'm also reading, and I wanted to read this book this week, but I just didn't get to it because I was finishing up a few more things. But I am going, it's a tiny one, so I'm going to be able to do it. But I'm part of a book group, and we've been meeting via Zoom now. Last month we read Transcendent Kingdom, and this month we're reading this. We are reading Kim Ji-young, born 1982, a novel by Cho Nam-ju, and it is written in Korean, translated for us by, I'm not sure, but I like to tell us who. Translated by Jamie Chang, and I'm really excited to read this book. Again, it is quite small, but it deals with some really big issues. The back says that it's a fierce international bestseller that launched Korea's new feminist movement. So I'm interested in that. Next, I am going to take part in the Bridgerton read-along. So starting on November 9th, we're going to read one Bridgerton book a week until we get to Christmas, because of course the Bridgertons are coming out on Netflix on Christmas. I have never read these, and romance novels are hit and miss for me. Sometimes I find ones that I absolutely love. It's not even by author. I might love one Tessa Dare but hate another. I might love one old school Eugenia Price and hate another. I've never read anything by Julia Quinn, although I do own a few. I would pick them up for like 10 cents a piece at the library bookstore years ago and just kind of have them on hand for when I was getting on an airplane or when I was needing something really light and quick to read. I do read these fairly quickly, these kinds of romance novels. And I don't know if I'm gonna love this. So I did purchase the first one. My preference for reading material is to either listen to an audiobook or read a physical copy. And with romance, I find it difficult to listen to them. I really prefer to read so that I can set my own pace for how I'm reading. When it gets a little too cheesy, I like to skim a little bit. When it gets a little too sexy, I like to skim a little bit. But I should have said that like Miranda Hart, but I wasn't thinking until, I didn't think of it until after I said it, and then I heard it in my head in a Miranda voice. But I am going to participate in this for at least the first week. I'm going to give it a try because I know that I'm going to watch the series on Netflix. I know that I'm probably going to like the series on Netflix, and I always prefer to have read the book before I watch the series or the movie. So I'm going to give this a try. I do have all the other books for my library in either audiobook or ebook. And so they're ready to go. And if I really love this, I probably won't read one book a week. I'll probably just read the whole thing in a few days, probably over Thanksgiving break. But I will read this one on the 9th, as the rest of the people who are reading it will be doing. Then there's a few things that I am wanting to get through that are not connected to any kinds of read-a-thons or focused reading. One is my own personal obsession with Sophie Kinsella books. So I got this. I pre-ordered a long time ago. It arrived. I've been really good about not opening it up and reading it, but I'm really dying to. I love Sophie Kinsella books. I own and reread every year the entire Shopaholic series. Last year was like, because she released another Shopaholic book and it was Christmas themed. Oh my word. So she's released this one this year. It's a standalone. It's called Love Your Life, and I'm really excited to read it. The other things that I want to get through, I am currently listening to 2 audiobooks, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I'm listening to Evelyn Hardcastle because my sister recommended it, and she read it, and I'm trying to listen to it, and I am finding listening to it to be quite difficult to track because there are so many people. So I might actually rewind on that and read it instead, but I would like to read that in November, either listening or reading. And then the other is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I am almost done with, but which I won't finish until November has already started. So there is all of that. That is my TBR. Plus, all year long, I have been part of a group that has been reading Shakespeare together. We have a Facebook group. We are all over the world. We mostly don't know each other in real life, but it has become a really tight-knit group and one of the highlights of this very weird and difficult year. Plus, in the end, we get to come out of it having read all of the things that have ever been attributed to Shakespeare. And so this month, from November 2nd to the 9th, I will be reading Henry VIII with them, and from November 11th to the 17th, I will be reading Edward III with them, and from November 19th to the 24th, I will be reading Timon of Athens with them. I have not missed a single play, I have not missed a single deadline, and I have been totally and completely rewarded through discussion, companionship, distanced companionship, through just exposure to some plays that I never would have read that I absolutely loved. So I think that at the end of the year, maybe in January, I will do a video that ranks all of Shakespeare, sonnets and all, according to my experience and my opinion. So excited to do that. Excited for this Novermber TBR. Also, I forgot about this guy. I wanted to read this one this week, and you know, life has just gotten away from me. So there are 2 books that I wanted to read this week that I didn't get to, and there are 2 books that I wanted to read this week that I did. So I'm gonna stop reading this. I started it. I've read, what is that? I've read 23 pages in it, but I'm gonna halt it for a moment and then pick it back up in November. It looks really November-ish, doesn't it? I'm gonna pick it back up in November. It is, you know what? I don't know what to think about it yet. The back says, "The fields were eternal, our life the only way of things, and I would do whatever was required of me to protect it." It sounds very intense, but the book itself is very, so far anyway, is very just kind of small town farm life. I mean, yeah, there is a sense of foreboding. There is a strange female character, but I'm not really sure where it's going or what even the story is. I don't know what to expect. In that way, it feels a little bit like a horror movie that I know is a horror movie that I kind of want to watch like this. I want to read this book like this. So I'm going to read it in November. Probably one of the first books I pick up in November. So there you have it. Have you read any of the books that are on my TBR? Would you have made any different choices? Let me know down in the comments. Tell me what you love. Tell me, you can tell me what you didn't like, but it's probably not going to sway me. It's probably never going to sway me if you tell me what you didn't like. But I like to hear people's opinions. If you do decide to tell me something that you like or something that you didn't like, always also tell me why. That would be awesome. So yeah, give me a comment. Also, like and subscribe. I'm new here. I'm just getting started. I upped my equipment game. So hopefully the lighting and maybe the sound even is better on this particular video. And I'm starting to get the editing thing down. Hopefully this video will be less than 40 minutes. 40 minutes! All my videos seem to be 40 minutes no matter how long I film for. So I apologize for the extreme length of my videos. I'm really excited to be here though. Are you participating in any of these? Let me know. As always, please like and subscribe. And until next time, happy reading.